Hey, what's up, guys? Coach Mac, playfastfootball.blogspot.com. I apologize for it being a couple months since we did our last blog and our last YouTube video, but during the season it gets kind of tough to do blogs when you're getting ready for games every week. And just so happened that this week we've had some bad weather, had a lot of rain and some lighter practices, so I was able to put something together and get it out there with some of the things that we've been doing the past couple of weeks that have really helped us on the defensive side of the football. In some earlier blogs, we talked a little bit about being a base 4-2-5 structure and a split coverage, split field safety, split coverage team, and divorced front with the front and secondary being divorced with our strength calls, and blending the 4-2-5 with the 3-3 stack and the 3-4 defense. And what I want to talk about today in general is just changing defensive looks and really more or less talking more about how you can effectively change your looks to make an offense prepare for more things during the week. And in having to prepare for more of those things during the week, it takes away from their time in actually preparing for what your base structures really are. In today's game, with video the way it is, I think there's so much going on with video exchanges, and it's so easy to exchange video that now your opponents are ending up with all of your games on film. And by the time you get to week 4, 5, 6, 7, you can assure that your opponent has probably seen you play at least 4, 5, or 6 times. And some people look at that kind of as being something that hurts and says, well, they're going to see everything we do, and they're going to see all our tendencies, and they're going to see all our calls, and if we had any fake punts or onside. And I kind of look at it as a positive, and I for myself, when I'm game planning, I say to my coaches all the time, I want them to see everything we do. I want to give them everything we possibly can do on offense and defense and special teams, and make them try to prepare for that in 5 days. Because I personally think the more that you can show them, all right, the less time they have to prepare on what really is your base structures. And to me, that's the biggest difference in coaches that really know how to win games and be successful, and coaches that struggle a little bit, is you really don't know how to fine-tune and hone in on what other teams do really well. And sometimes you just get floored and enamored with all these different things that teams do, and you're not able to really break it down and determine what is it that they really do best, or what is their base structure that they're going to lean on and go back to. So for me, defensively, I want to show as many things on film as I possibly can. So when that other team looks at that film, and that offensive coordinator and offensive line coach and quarterback coach, when they look at that film, I want them to see as many looks as possible, as many movements as possible, as many blitzes as possible, all right, to get them to have to prepare for those things during the week, all right, which in a shorter high school week, all right, with guys only having maybe 3.5 to 4 practices, 3 full practices, and maybe a walkthrough, I want them to have to prepare for all those things, and I want to cut down on the time that they spend preparing for what is actually our base structure. If we sit in the 4-2-5 and play split field coverages, and the other team is able to block that front all week, okay, they're going to eventually score a ton of points on you, because the front is static. They know where the 3 is. They know where the 1 is. They know what you're doing as far as your coverage structures are. So they'll sit back there and they'll be able to practice it and scheme it and block it and run the right routes and throw the right balls to carve your defense up all week. So what you need to do is you need to be able to change your defensive structure and change your looks while still playing the same style of defense, so that you're not confusing your own kids. And by doing that, what you can effectively do is get that other team, all right, to have to prepare for multiple things, which cuts down on their time that they are spending preparing on what is just your base defense. You got to remember, at the end of the day, football is probably the ultimate chess match in sporting events between 2 coaches, 2 coordinators. It's just the ultimate checkmate game where you're trying to do things that affect the other coordinator, and he's trying to do things that affect you. And if you look at the style of football and the trends of the game, a lot of the things have gone towards doing things that can help on the field to take away from that chess match. Offense is going tempo and no huddle, so that you can't make substitutions and you can't have a lot of calls and checks in. Okay? Offense is using check with me systems so that they can get up at the line of scrimmage, freeze you, see what you're in, and then call a different play. defense is changing their defensive call after the offensive checks. Now the defense has a check with me system. If you check, then we check. All these little games that are being played to try and one-up the other team, because at the end of the day, I think everybody really understands that if an offense and a defense sit down with a marker and an eraser on a board, it's pretty easy to determine how you want to stop or attack what the other team is doing if you know where they're going to be all the time. So I think what you're seeing in football now is a trend to keep the chess match moving between the two coaches and coordinators, all right, and to keep that going into a Friday night game situation where the chess match is happening at 100 miles an hour, all right. And to me, the way that you can kind of blur the vision of the other coordinator is to give them multiple things to look at during the week, all right. I want to affect their practice plan. I want to affect how they prepare. I want to affect the time that they spend preparing for what we're trying to do. Okay? Conversely, I want to not affect my kids by making wholesale changes and each week running a flavor of the week defense. I want to run my defense, and I want to run the things that we teach and the things that we feel like we can do well, but I want to do it in a manner that makes the other team effectively have to prepare and spend more time doing multiple things and preparing for multiple things, all right, so that they can't spend more time on blocking what you feel is like your base front or your base coverages, or designing route structures to beat what your base coverages are. Okay, so just going to take a look at some simple things that you can do that have helped us, all right, the last 2 years, the last couple weeks. Currently we're not having as much success in the win-loss column as we would like. We're right there in the thick of things in our district, but as far as our overall one-loss record, it's not where we would like it. But the one thing we are doing is playing a lot better defense. And in the last 3 weeks, we have really played some good defense, and we have held teams to under 255 yards in 2 of the 3 games and under 200 yards in 1 of those games. And I think one of the things that we're doing is we're changing some looks up. We're giving the other team multiple things to prepare for, all right? But we're also trying to define what it is the other teams do and how we can take those things away. So, obviously for us, we base out of the 4-2-5. I'm going to keep, for right now, I'm just going to draw up a base two-back set that we see a lot of, 20 personnel, two-back shotgun set that we're starting to see a lot of in our conference, and I think you're starting to see a lot of it in college football as well. So, for us, we're a base 4-2-5 team. We're going to set the 3 technique to the strength. Okay, so we're going to set the 3 technique for us. We can set them to the sniffer if we want to. We can set them wherever we decide that week that we want to. For the most part, though, we like to set them to the multiple, to the run strength, all right, which in an open end set or a non-tight end set would be the multiple receiver side. Okay, if it was a tight end, we would set them to the 3-man surface. All right, so for right now, we've got them set to the multiple receiver side. All right, we're a split field coverage team. We play with 3 safeties on the field at all times. So one of our safeties is going to be down, all right, to the side that our free safety declares. One of our safeties, all right, could be down to the other side. Like to be an 8-man front team as much as possible. That's basically what we base out of, all right? We base out of an 8-man front versus 2-back sets, and then we change, from there, we change our looks with how we play the coverages. We change our coverages, and we try and change our looks up front, all right, with not only different fronts, but also changing some of the movements up front. Okay, so we base out of that 4-2-5 over front structure. If I leave that up on the board, every offense in America and every offensive coordinator in America, okay, can design things to beat that defense. All right, he can design things that are going to give you fits in that defense. The front stays static. They know where the backers are. They know where the safeties are. They know where the corners are. Everything stays static. They can block it up and they can run good plays. All right, so one of the first things we do, all right, to change looks up for the offense is we like to use multiple defensive line movements, okay? We like to come with multiple 1- and 2-man games, all right, to effectively change the appearance of the front and how the offense has to prepare to block, all right, within their run game or within their read game, okay? So one of the first things you can do is you can change your defensive line stunts to change out how you gap out the run game, okay? To the 2-man surface of the 3 and the 5 technique, one of the things we like to do is we like to run pirate stunts where we bring the 3 under, okay, and we bring the 5 under, all right? What that does is it tries to make, all right, strong side runs bounce. It tries to get strong side runs to go to the perimeter. If they want to be a power team or a strong side run team to the sniffer, all right, this helps us get some movement to where we feel like we can get these runs to bounce. It gets us to get our Mike linebacker to be able to run over the top. Okay, it gets our down safety in a position if we were playing palms coverage. It gets our down safety in a position inside out to fall back in on runs a lot quicker. All right, so we feel like it gives us the ability, all right, to force some runs to bounce. All right, we feel like it gives us the ability to kind of let the Mike run. Okay, but also what it gives us the ability to do is sometimes when you're playing teams that are power teams, it gives us the ability to keep some people off of our will linebacker, who's a very good, very active player for us. Okay, so by bringing the 3 and the 5 under, not only do you force the ball to bounce, but sometimes you can effectively keep people off of your will linebacker on the backside if you can get hands on the guard and tackle, and if not, cross their face in the movement, at least push them down, and if you can't put your body in a gap, put their body in a gap, and hands on these 2 offensive linemen allows our will linebacker to run a lot freer. Okay, so that's one of the things up front we can do to change, all right, to change the look for the offense, all right, as far as what they're seeing, all right, from your over front. All right, another thing we can do, all right, is we can run a blood stunt where we can change the gaps of the 1 and the 3. So we can bring the 3 inside to the 1, we can bring the 1 outside to the 3. Now we've effectively given us almost an under front look, all right, where we've changed how we play the interior 2 gaps and we've changed what gaps our linebackers are playing, all right. A lot of times if we're playing teams that like to pull guards or if we're playing teams that like to trap, a lot of times they want to trap or midline the 3 technique. By moving the 3 technique, you kind of change who the trap player is or who the midline player is. All right. On the backside, sometimes if you're getting a lot of weak side ISO, all right, by changing and sparking the tackle to the B gap, you can help yourself there. All right. If they think they're going to run to the big bubble all the time, you're changing where that big bubble is. All right, so just that simple defensive line movement right there changes where the bubble is, changes gap assignments for D linemen and linebackers, changes effectively how they would like to block, all right, that front. Okay, because when you sit in the same front, you know that the big bubble's here, and then on this side, when you got the 3 and the 5, they can cross block it, they can fold it and kick out. When they know where the guys are sitting, they can draw up their blocking schemes accordingly. And if they're a check with me team, or depending on what style of offense, if they're a midline team, they know where the 3 is. If they want to run to the big bubble, they know where the 1 and the 5 are. So just that simple stunt right there, changing the 3 technique and the 1 technique, changes. All right, where your midline player is, it changes where your big bubble is. So just a simple stunt like that, all right, right there can help effectively, all right, change out of that base 4-2-5 front. That can give you some movement and change some things that make it a little bit more difficult for the offense to attack. Another one that's been very good to us this year, all right, is getting the nose a little bit thicker on the guard and running what we call a nut stunt, which is just, all right, the nose is going to go under the tackle, all right, and what it does is when you get teams that are heavy power teams or strong side run teams, all right, it gets the tackle involved instead of the tackle constantly being backdoored, all right, on the back block of the center, all right, which is another, big part in getting extra guys to the point of attack, how your tackle plays off the back blocks of the center on the power play, all right, but the nut stunt for us is we have a very active, very physical, good nose guard. So what we like to do is we like to get them a little bit thicker here, and we like to bring them, all right, straight through the face of the center and try and collapse the center, all right, and put the center in the backside A gap. We then like to take that backside 1 technique, all right, and we like to bring him around to the front side to give us a little bit more presence on the front side. And what we found a lot of times in doing this, all right, is when the nose can get down and get a piece of the center effectively, a lot of times the guard in the gap scheme gets contained or caught up on the nose, all right, so when he sees the nose go down, he tries to stay on him, all right, in his down gap scheme, all right, so he stays on the nose can get movement towards the center, and it frees up the tackle coming back around, all right, to the strong side. Probably not the greatest if you're getting a lot of weak side runs at the big bubble. All right, if the sniffer were set over here and you're getting some ISO, I don't know if that would be the greatest call. But if you know you're getting a sniffer strong and you're getting a lot of strong side power teams, this stunt has been very effective for us, changing up how we get an extra body to the front side and kind of, again, all right, creating some movement and getting, all right, this guard caught up on the nose stunt down inside and bringing the tackle back behind him there with a very active will linebacker has been able to help us stop, all right, the gap scheme power play. Okay, but again, just a 2-man movement doesn't take a lot of time, all right? It doesn't take, all right, a lot of coaching, All right, there's not a lot of great coaching points there on the movement. It's something that you can kind of really let your kids do, let them rip, have some fun, and get extra players to the front side of these runs where they want to run the ball. Okay, so, you know, just the pirate stunt, the blood stunt, all right, the nut stunt there, okay, and then also if you're getting teams that attack the big bubble, okay, just the ability to run a simple rub stunt. All right, and take this rush end under right here into the B gap now, okay, and then build in a built-in loop of the tackle versus the passing game. But in the run game, this B stunt or hard exchange right here, all right, what that does is that allows, all right, your rush end to be very active in the B gap and close down across the tackle's face here, and allows your will linebacker, who again for us is a very active player, if you're facing a lot of weak side runs or runs where teams like to attack that big bubble to the A and the 5, this lets your end be active in the B gap, and it lets your will linebacker be more of a run over the top. If you're playing a zone read team or a zone scheme team, okay, a lot of times what will happen is on the zone scheme, when the end triggers into the B gap, a lot of times you can eat up the block of this backside tackle, okay? You can eat the block of this backside tackle up so he can't climb to the will. You can also trigger a pull read from the quarterback, and you might be able to get yourself a pull read right into an unblocked will linebacker to the single receiver side, all right, if they don't have any option theories and there's nobody to pitch off of, okay? That's a simple stunt that you can use to not only take away the big bubble on the open B gap side, but also to kind of exchange how you're playing, all right, how you're playing some of those run schemes where they might be zone read schemes or veer read schemes where the quarterback may be pulling off the backside. If you're getting teams that like to run counter back to the backside, a lot of teams we play will take this guard and run and kick, and they'll take this sniffer and they'll wrap, okay? If you are having a hard time with your defensive end wrong arming off down blocks, or maybe your defensive end is a little bit light and he's getting kicked all the time, this stunt right here can help you get a little more presence inside, allow your will to run over the top, or along with either a drop down safety or a corner playing run support, and now you can get two guys outside the tackle, try and get this ball to bounce a little bit, all right, instead of the kick out here, hard gash with the fold block, and now that ball's ripping vertical, you can get that ball to bounce to the outside to where you have a will ready to run and a down safety or a corner ready to run support on the single receiver side. Okay, so the rub stunt is another effective, it's a one-man stunt in the run game, it's a two-man stunt in the passing game, but it's another easy and effective way to kind of dictate what you're taking away from the offense and how you're trying to protect your defense. All right? With those defensive line movements, the first thing we like to do, all right, to present a problem for offenses is we like to do all those same things from a 3-3 stack look without changing personnel. All right, and I talked about this in one of the earlier blogs and how we kind of morphed the two into the same defense because they're six-man box principles. All right, as long as I don't go to a 4-3 and change how I have to teach my safeties to play in the box, as long as I stay with the six-man box principle, I can morph those two defenses into one. All right, and the way we do that is simply by dropping the nose. All right, we drop the nose back behind the tackle, and now we're in the same six-man box structure, so we can run all the same defensive line stunts that we wanted to run, and we can keep all the gap responsibilities the same for the guys as it is in over. All right, so now we can come back and run the same stunts. We can run the pirate stunt with the end under, and now the nose in the front side A gap, and now we've got that pirate stunt from the 3-3 stack look. All right, same stunt for our defense. Mike can be ready to run over the top. It can help keep guys off the will linebacker, but now we're presenting it from a 3-3 stack look. Okay, we can run the same. All right, we can run the same blood stunt. All right, depending on the ability of your tackle, it's a two-gap move, so you got to understand the ability of your tackle. Sometimes we may have to shade him a little bit here. All right, but we can go blood, put the nose here, and two-gap. All right, and long stick the tackle outside to the B gap. And again, depending on the ability, our tackle is a little bit smaller, but he's quicker, so this is something that we can do. He can get across the top of the back blocks of the tackle. All right, but it gives us the ability to run the blood stunt now from the stack front. Okay, and we can run that same stunt that we ran from over. Okay, if we're facing track teams or we want to take away the big bubble. We can do the same thing out of stack that we did in over with no new teaching for any of our kids. Okay, we can get into stack and we can run, all right, the nut stunt. All right, we can take our nose. A lot of times our nose likes to walk up a little bit wider to do it, but we can take our nose here, bring our tackle back behind him to the front side there. All right, so we've been able to run stack nut along with over nut. Gives us the same thing where we get hard pressure through the A-gap, all right, on the center. Sometimes in gap schemes, like I said, the thing that's helped us is in gap schemes and power schemes, this kid sometimes stays on, all right, that block of the nose guard because he's an A-gap player first, and our tackle gets loose across the top. If this tackle here tries to climb, all right, and now you take the nose through and the tackle over. We've had our tackle make some plays on the front side of power by running that two-man game right there, and we run it out of stack and out of over. So we've changed the appearance, all right, for the offensive coordinator, but we haven't really changed anything for our defensive players. All right, we also can run stack rub. Okay, we can run stack rub now, all right, get into the stack look, all right, run the same stunt, take the rush in now and put him through the B. Tackle stays A, and now the nose just goes back to be a front side 3 technique player, and it puts us right back into the over front running the rub stunt, taking away the open B gap or the big bubble, letting the Will become a guy that can run over the top on weak side runs, all right, and it protects some of the things to the big bubble and takes away some things with a simple one-man, all right, gap stunt or a one-man stunt or disrupt right there. So the ability to go from the over front to the stack front and keep 6-man box principles and keep 2 high safety principles. See, that's the big thing that you got to discern from whether, you know, a 3-5-3 or a 3-3-5 team. I think a 4-2-5 team and a 3-3-5 team are the same football teams in general because they both play with 6-man box principles. So a lot of times, you know, guys will argue and say, well, 3-3 stack has to be a 1 high defensive principle. No, it doesn't if it's 3-3-5. If it's 3-5-3, then I agree that it's probably going to be a 1 high structure and it's going to be a lot of cover 3 man free. But if it's a 3-3-5 with 5 secondary players, I'm going to tell you that it's a 6-man box principle, and because there's 5 secondary players, it can be a 2 high split field coverage, you know, defense all day long. So we can take the 4-2-5 and the 3-3-5 and blend them into the same concepts because they're 6-man box principles. Okay? And it just so happens that I have a nose guard that can do all the things that I ask him. I don't have to substitute a Mike linebacker or another linebacker in to do that. So I can play the 2 defenses with the same personnel groups on the field. Okay, so those are some things within changing from the 4-2-5 and the 3-3 stack and then defensive line movements, all right, that can change your defensive looks, that can not only help you in the run game, but it helps in how you are attacking other offenses because it doesn't allow them to sit in on your overfront and block your overfront all day in practice. You know, I've had a lot of guys that have talked to me and said, you know, Coach, when you run that 3-3 stack with 76 in the game, we have to present that as a completely different front to our kids, and it's another bit of time, you know, teaching to our offensive linemen because it's a different front, okay? And they know as much as I know that we're going back to all the same movements, but they have to teach it as a different front because it presents some rules issues for their offensive line. Okay, so, you know, it's a good thing for us to change from the 4-2-5 to the 3-3 stack, use a lot of those 2-man and 1-man games and those defensive line movements, all right? And the biggest thing is, not only does it help us in the run game, but it helps us during the week as much as it does on game night because that other team has to prepare for all those things that they see on film. Okay, so if they have to prepare for all those things that they see on film, all right, then they have to spend extra time preparing, which means it's less time working against your base static 4-2-5 front. All right, so you got to learn how to protect yourself, and sometimes you can protect yourself by playing a chess game with the other coach and showing him things on film he's got to prepare for. All right, which takes time out of his practice plan. I think that's that mental chess game between coaches on film. I think that's a big part that a lot of people lose out on, and sometimes people get afraid to do things because they don't want other teams to see it on film. I think the exact opposite. I want them to see more on film. Because I think good coaches will spot things on film and go, hey, we have to work on that. We got to look at that. Look, they showed this, they showed that. So the good coaches are going to dissect all that film, and then they're going to try and defend it because they've seen it on film. So I like to throw everything at somebody on defense I possibly can because they have to work on possibly defending it or stopping it on their offensive front, so they have to work on blocking it and protecting it in the passing game, so they have to work on it, which spends less time working on the static-based structure. All right. Now on the back end, when you change defensive looks, you want to change your structure and your coverages. Okay. you want to be able to change the structure in your coverages so that not only you change how you support the run, but you change how you're fitting up certain route combinations. Okay? So, in our base structure on the back end, okay, on the back end a lot of times will be to, if you give us a number 2 removed receiver, all right, we are going to be some version of 2 read on the front side, or what we call, all right, and we stole it from other people. I stole it from a friend of mine, but we call it palm. Some people call it blue or 2 read, but basically it's a concept where you're basing the coverage off of the release of the number 2 receiver. You're playing a down safety or a Sam linebacker inside number 2, okay? All right, so he is an immediate fall-in player into the run game, all right, but he is also technically, all right, he's the initial force player in the defense, and then if he gets blocked, your free safety has to become the force player in the defense, all right? So on the backside, we're going to play some type of cover 2 concept, whether it's a corner down or a safety down, it's going to be some type of cover 2 concept on the backside. All right, so that's how we base, that's how we start off, okay? If we stay in that structure all night long, they're going to have route combinations out here that give you fits, okay? And then they're going to figure out how to block the force player and how to do things on the backside to give you fits. So what you got to do is you got to be able to change your defensive structures, all right, so that in coverage you can change what they have to prepare for, so they have to change in the run game, okay? One of the simple things that you can do on the front side to change, okay, is you can play a rob or a quarters concept where you put the safety outside of 2 and the free safety tighter to the box, where now with leverage he is the force player immediately. He's able to help you underneath the quick throws, okay, and now your free safety becomes a guy that's got to fall in on inside runs, okay? But what it does is now if you're playing a team that is a lot of perimeter runs or jet sweeps or stretches, you now have immediate leverage outside in force. You now have the free safety down in a position depending on what 2 does to get involved in a run game, okay? So you've kept your safety structure on the front side here. You've kept your safety support structure. You've just changed the leverage of how you're playing it so that they can't say, hey, let's run stretch or jet, let's block the down safety, all right, and get the ball leveraged to the perimeter all the time. Or, hey, if they're going to stay inside of 2, all right, this is the big one you see all the time, all right, not only in the quick game or spacing game, but a lot of times if you stay inside of 2 and you want to play a 2 read theory, all right, we see this all the time and it's a pain in the neck. First thing they're going to do is they're going to take 2 and bring them to the bubble or to the flat, and they're going to take 1 and rip them vertical and see how you handle that, okay? If you don't have a safety that can get over the top of 1, okay, or if you don't trigger on a bubble, all right, they're going to keep attacking that structure in the same fashion over and over again, because either you can't get to the vertical or you don't support the bubble. If you've got a corner that triggers hard on a bubble, they're going to put all the pressure on the free safety to get over the top of that. Okay? So when teams know you're in that coverage, there's plenty of ways for them to dial up how they want to attack it in the run game and the passing game. By simply changing that structure and putting the down safety outside and the free safety inside and playing a quarters theory, now you've changed how you handle that. Now right away to this bubble, your down safety has the bubble, your corner's playing all of 1 man, so when you get the vertical, you've got the vertical manned up and you've got leverage on the bubble. Now they're going to have to crack the down guy, which allows the corner to fit the bubble and the free safety to run and fit the bubble inside out. So right there, you've effectively changed not only how you leverage the run game, all right, not only how you leverage the run game, but you've effectively changed, all right, how you leverage the bubble screen and how you play the vertical or the combination routes that beat 2 read or palms coverage all the time. Okay? Now, if you're a split field safety team, one of the things you're going to have to be able to do is you're going to have to be able to close the middle of the field, all right, because play action teams and, all right, teams that play with a sniffer or a fullback that can go vertical will always attack the middle of the field. Okay, so, you know, one of the big things you'll get is you'll get play action passes and you'll get some type of concept, all right, where the tough one to defend for us is when you get the shake route, the corner post of number 2, okay, when you get the corner post route of number 2, because no matter how long you talk to your free safety about keeping inside leverage and coverage, when they see that corner route, they all want to run to the corner, all right? So good teams will go play action, they'll go corner post, and they'll put all the pressure on the free safety to defend the corner post because they know you're a middle of the field open team, okay? One of the ones that hurts us, all right, and a team did it to us 2 weeks ago and they got us on it, is when they can go play action and get 3 vertical down the middle because they're putting all the pressure on the Mike linebacker now because in a two read or a palms concept or a quarters concept or a robber concept, to a two remove side, a lot of times this might be the guy that's got to run with 3 vertical. Okay? So if they're a hard run team and your Mike is constantly fitting runs, they sneak the fullback by him. All right? We've been hurt by that a couple times before in the past. All right? So what you have to do is you also have to effectively change by closing the middle of the field. So one of the things we'll do is we'll play 3 deep, all right, where we'll put the down safety outside of 2, all right, like he is playing robber coverage to that side, and we'll take the free safety and we'll slam him down inside the down safety, okay, and we'll just buzz him down into that hook curl area, all right, and then we'll take our backers and kind of remove them and bump them a little bit to the backside. Okay, and now we'll take our backside safety and spin them to the middle. And now what we've done is we've closed the middle of the field. So now that if they're a team that wants to go play action to the middle or 3 vertical to the middle, or they want to attack the middle of the field because the middle of the field is open, as a split field coverage team, you've got to be able to close the middle of the field to change, all right, how you are playing that, all right, because now you can effectively, if you know down and distance or tendencies. And again, the chess game occurs between coordinators. If you can get them to throw their theories down the middle while you close the middle of the field, all right, now you can put your kids in a better position than when they are split field with the middle of the field open, okay? This also changes how teams run the bubble and how you leverage the run game off the bubble, okay? Because now your down safety's outside of 2, so the bubble by 2 really isn't that big of an issue. Okay, but now when teams see this guy wide, a lot of times they think they're going to get run game right here. Okay, well you take that away by slamming your free safety down. Okay, you slam your free safety down, and now at the snap of the ball, you've got your free safety sitting here. All right, you've got your free safety sitting here where they want to run the football. All right, so they think by your 2 being out here, when they run the bubble, the leverage player is so far removed that they should have numbers in the box. You can take those numbers away by rolling the free safety down. You can combine that with your stunt game, all right, and now you can run pirate trap, and you can pirate these guys under, all right, and now you can get the ball to bounce to the free safety, and your Mike can run a little bit faster because you can keep bodies off him, and he knows you're canceling A and B, so he can run over the top to the C, okay? So now you can combine the movements where you can go pirate trap, and now you're combining the defensive line movements with the structure of coverage behind it to defend the run game. All right, while also effectively challenging how they want to attack you in the pass game if you're a split field coverage team. Okay, so being able to change the coverages from 2 read to quarters to 3 deep, all right, is an effective way to, all right, play that chess game with that other coordinator, all right, so that he has to see that on film. I want him on film to see the middle of the field open. I want him to see the middle of the field closed. I want him to look at all those things on film so that when he's calling plays, he can't just look and go, hey, 3rd and 2, they're a middle of the field open team. Let's go hard play action, fullback down the middle, okay? And again, we've been hurt by that play. You're going to get hurt at times. They're going to guess right. You're going to guess wrong. You can't defend everything. But if they know that I might close the middle of the field, maybe they won't call that play. Okay? So sometimes just by showing things on film, by closing the middle of the field, you can alter how an offensive coordinator thinks because he doesn't know that the middle of the field is always going to be open. Okay? Again, the big chess game, the middle of the field closes. They know it's 3 deep. All right? You'll get these routes. You'll get quick game back to the single. Okay? You can't defend it all. You got to pick and choose what you want to defend and how you want to defend it. All right? So that's what makes football so great. That's what, to me, the coaching part of the game that I love so much is the chess game played between 2 people on film. All right? You know I go to 3 deep, you throw a quick game to the X, okay, you win. All right? If I don't show it to you and I spin late and you can't get quick game to the X and you force runs here, bubble here, or throws down the middle, then I win. Okay? But at the same time, you know, whoever has the marker last is going to win the game, so you've got to be able to change how you do that. And I think, for me, you know, the point I'm trying to make in doing this segment on this blog is I think you can do that on film. You can change how another team calls their game on film by showing those things. All right? The last thing that I like to do from time to time is change how you cover behind your pressures. Okay? We like to be a man pressure team. All right? In high school football, I like to be a man pressure team because I think, all right, it's easier to run multiple pressures without changing the structure of the coverage. All right? I don't think man pressures hold up against the run game, and they certainly don't hold up against quarterback runs. All right? But at the same time, I think they're easier, all right, to play as far as your kids lining up to multiple formations and knowing who they're covering and then running multiple stunts up front. Whereas sometimes with zone blitzes, you got to be careful where you're bringing them from and what the formations are, all right, because you can get caught in some bad things and out-leverage real quick in zone blitzes, all right, if you're not careful with where you're bringing them from. But I definitely think zone blitzes are better, all right, than in run support than man pressures are. They're also better if you want to play softer and not give up the home run. And man, sometimes you gotta kind of, sometimes man pressures are band calls, and when you make them, their band's going to play or your band's going to play. And sometimes you just got to, live by the sword, die by the sword. But what you can do is you can effectively change up your pressures, all right, just by changing up how you defend them behind it. All right, so if we wanted to bring a fifth guy, and let's say we were going to bring the Mike linebacker as a fifth guy in pressure, okay, and we were going to play, all right, we were going to play this, we were going to bring the Mike and we were going to play one free, okay, so now behind it we're going to play the number 1 receiver, the number 2 receiver, the number 1 receiver, the number 2 receiver, the number 3 in the backfield, and this guy's going to spin to the middle and he's going to play free. Okay, so now versus this set, what you would get is you would get, all right, a will and a safety who have to bracket the 2 backs. Okay, you get man on the 1s, man on the 2, all right, free safety defending the middle of the field, and a middle of the field closed post high safety. All right, just a simple 1 free concept. All right. When you have 3 safeties on the field, I think man pressures are even more effective because I think I can at least match up to 4 wides. They still may have a better dude than I have, but I feel like at least I'm not sending a Sam linebacker out into coverage on a number 2 or a number 3, and it might be a little bit of a mismatch. I feel like at least my safeties have a fighting chance. If that guy's better than my guy, then it's a mismatch by personnel. It's not a mismatch because I have a Mike linebacker on a number 3 receiver. All right, so you send the 5th rusher, you play man free behind it, okay, and now they have to see that. When they see that on film, they're going to see you chasing routes, and they're going to see that you're in man coverage behind your pressures, okay? All right? The thing you can do to kind of help that a little bit, and again, not only help yourself, but also to throw a little bit of intrigue into the offensive coordinator's mind, okay, is you can run the same pressure, all right, and make it 3 under 3 deep. All right, so I can do the same effective thing here with the pressure, all right, and now I can make it 3 under 3 deep where I go seam, curl, flat, all right, I go seam, curl, flat, I go middle hole, 3 dropper, and I go deep middle, deep third, deep third. Now, if that's not a part of your base structure, you have to understand in coverage, I probably can't play this 3 under 3 deep as effective as a lot of other teams that base out of it or play it, 30% of the snaps they blitz on. Okay? But if I can play it effectively enough to where I can take away certain throws, be in an 8-man front against the run, okay, it's not something I live in. I don't live in zone pressure defense. It's less than 5% or 10% of what I do on defense. Okay, so I don't live out of it. I'm very selective with when and where I call it and when and where I use it. Okay, I'm never going to be able to teach it as good as the guy that bases all his pressure out of zone pressure. I understand that, but I'm not looking to be as good at that coverage, all right, as those teams are, because I also play a bunch of man free. All right, so I need to be good enough in this coverage that I don't give up the cheap seam throws. I got to be good enough to get somebody to understand where the 3 receiver is. I got to be good enough to understand maybe how to split and apex 2 verticals by a 3rd defender. So all I have to do is be good enough to not give up the home run in that coverage. And for me, I think I've effectively changed the mindset of the offensive coordinator. Okay? Again, I can't live in that coverage behind my pressures every week because we don't teach it enough, and I don't do a good enough job teaching it that I can't expect my kids to play that 15 snaps a game and be solid. All right? But I feel like we can play this 4 to 5 snaps a game, not give up a home run, be in an 8-man front against the run, and now those 4 or 5 snaps mixed in with 5 1-free snaps, mixed in with 6 0 snaps, all right? Now as that offensive coordinator, he's got to look and say, okay, in coverage, all right, they play palms, they play quarters, they play 3 deep, there's a cover 2 look to the single, they're a man-free team, they're a 0 team, but they also zone pressure. So now the offensive offensive coordinator has to look at all those things, and when he's drawing up different route combinations and protections for his offensive line, he's got to look at all those and go, okay, I like this versus palms, but I like this versus quarters. This is a better route concept versus 3 deep. I love this versus cover 2. All right, this is good for man free. This is good for zero. This is good for zone pressure. Well, it's real easy to draw those up if you know where they're coming. If I do my job as a defensive coordinator and can teach my kids how to show different looks and play different looks, now you don't know when any of those are coming. And if you don't know when they're coming, you might get a cheap turnover or a good stop on a 3rd down when you need to get off the field because they call a palms route into 3 deep, or they call a quarters route into, a zone pressure, or they throw a hot into a zone pressure that they thought maybe was a man-free concept. Okay? So now what you've done is you've changed, how you're doing what you're doing on defense, all right, to effectively change up what it looks like to the offense. Now again, on game night, all right, how you play those is extremely important, and obviously if you can do those things effectively, it increases your chances, all right, to be a good football team on Friday night. All right? But more importantly, I think you can change the game Monday through Thursday or Saturday through Thursday when you make that offensive coordinator look at all those things and have to prepare for them during the week. And when he has to prepare for those, he's got to spend more time doing those, which means maybe he spends less time on the jet and less time on the power than he would really like to because he has to work on the jet and the power versus all those different looks. Okay, so I think I can affect how the other team practices and what the other team does by effectively showing more on film. Catch-22, some guys like to hide things and not show them to people and then bring them out in big game situations. I get it, I understand. I myself like to show you everything and throw everything but the kitchen sink at you and make you prepare for everything, all right, so that I feel like I can affect your game planning that week. All right? At the end of the day, what it comes down to is your kids have to be able to play what you're asking them to play. If you cannot play those structures and play them fast, don't play them. If your kids can play them, all right, then I think it gives you a better chance on a Friday night, all right, because I think it affects how the other team prepares. All right? I think there's a lot of these things that you can do in high school, all right, or even sometimes, not all of them, but you can do some of them in junior high or Pop Warner football, not to the extent maybe in high school, and I certainly can't do it to the extent that college and NFL teams do, but I think you can do enough of these things that your kids can grasp. Going from palms to quarters is not a hard concept for kids to understand. It really only changes 1 to 2 to 3 players in the coverage. It's not that difficult, all right? Going from quarters to 3 deep is not that difficult. Okay, so I think a lot of those changes are very slight in structure, and I think that they can be made very simply while your kids can still make them play fast, play effectively, and change what the offense is looking at. Okay, at the end of the day, it's all about who's most successful. Like I said, right now we haven't played as good a football, we haven't won as many games as we won last year, so we're struggling a little bit, so we've had to cut down on what we're doing and run more base theories. All right, I still like to show all these looks, I do show all these looks. All right, and I think that we do a good job showing multiple looks. All right, but right now it's a matter of, all right, getting things done and getting things accomplished. And when you're not winning, everybody's always going to go back to the scheme and look and say, well, it's the scheme. Well, no, it's not the scheme because we're doing the same things we've done that we've won with in the past. Right now, we're either not doing a good enough job coaching them, or we're not doing a good enough job executing, or we're not doing a good enough job calling the right things into the right looks. Okay, so myself as a coach, personally I like to take all the blame. The heat's on me. I'm not doing a good enough job preparing my players. I can tell you it is not the scheme. I know that for a fact. Okay, I've seen the scheme. I've seen how effective it is, and I've seen us when we play it well. When we play it well, all right, we're a very good football team. When we don't play it well, people beat us to death. That's just how football goes. Okay, and you can look at the NFL and look at teams right now that are 1-4 that were supposed to be Super Bowl contenders, and teams that are 0-5 that were supposed to be Super Bowl contenders. In the game of football, you show up and you play, you win games. You don't show up, you don't play, you don't win games. Okay? As always, guys, I hope this has helped you out as we progress into the end of the season and the off season. Hopefully next year I'll have some things that we can do to help people out. I'd like to have some guest coaches on doing some different things and talking about their program. Again, I'd like to take this, the blog and the YouTube videos to another level to try and help coaches out. And I appreciate everybody watching. And remember, you won't play well until you play fast.